Okay, I'm going to be going through um, doing some surveys while I talk about the changes that are coming to, well, some of the changes that are coming, especially in regards to the high elves, and that they get weapon damage now. And as you can see, I have a lot of surveys. That's just on this one character. I have some surveys on my other characters that I have to also give to this character. This is my main crafter. My first character that I started in Somerset with, and so I will have to get on my other characters too, dump those surveys into the bank, and then pick them up on this character and just just go collecting. Um, but yeah, so I know there has been a lot of people complaining on the forums and well about the racial changes and the fact that the high elves, the Altmer, are getting weapon damage, and the orcs are getting spell damage. And the thing is about that as well. Let's compare Elder Scrolls Online to the old Elder Scrolls games. It's like Skyrim, because that's the most recent one. In Skyrim, it really didn't matter which race that you picked. Of course, they influence the way you play the game and how you play the game, but they didn't really prevent you from playing any way you wanted to play. So if you wanted to be, well, let me just describe the character that I used to play in Skyrim. I had a high elf character, and she used dual elven swords or glass swords, um, and she also used alteration spells to cast, what do you call it? You know, the armor alteration spells. And let me find this. Where is this? I'm gonna look over here somewhere while I'm searching for it. So she casted alteration spells on herself for the armor, and she also used conjuration spells. So I had a character who used swords and magic, and that was the way I like to play with that character. And if I wanted to play that way with an orc, I could have did the same thing. You know, the race wouldn't have prevented me from playing it, and mostly because the game, the character in the game gave you magicka or stamina bonuses or speed and training, speed and the advancing of your skills. But but there was nothing about the game that prevented you from being good with weapons if you were high elf. However, you enter a game like Elder Scrolls Online, and you pretty much need, in order to be proficient with weapons, you pretty much need to have either weapon damage, stamina, max stamina, or stamina regen. Now, as far as I know, and I'm thinking from the Let's Plays of the what do you call it, Arena and Daggerfall that I have watched, and also what I know of Morrowind and Oblivion without actually playing those two. There was no such thing as weapon damage or spell damage in those games. This is something that was unique to Elder Scrolls Online. And so really, I can't quite call it lore breaking for them to give a character weapon damage or spell damage when this is something that they made up. You know, it's not. It actually wasn't part of lore. But let's just say you still believe that a high elf shouldn't be good with physical weapons or with stamina abilities. Well, again, in this game, the way it's set up, you must have either weapon damage, stamina, or stamina regen in order to be proficient with weapons. And the game, that's just basically the way it's set up. And but I will say this: I will put one caveat on that. I put an asterisk by it, and that is in regards to the Britons. But I'll probably come back to that in a minute. But so, in order for you to be able to play a character any way you want to, like the old Elder Scrolls games, which is in keeping with lore, really, if you want to think about it, because it's like the Elder Scrolls games. If you can play the way you want to play, you must have one of those stats. So when you look at weapon damage, out of all the other stats that they could have given the High Elves to allow them to be able to use physical weapons, it's the least lore breaking option, right? Because if you give the High Elves stamina, if you give them stamina regen, which is part of what the what do you call it, spell recharge is, and that might be a little bit, I would say that might be a little lore breaking, but other than that, I almost lost my place reading that note. So that's not very lore breaking. Phone. Okay, sorry for that interruption. I'm gonna try to get back on track here. So like I was saying, the 129 weapon damage out of all the options that Zos could have given the High Elves, this was probably the least lore breaking. And so without that, I doubt that the High Elves would be able to use weapons in the game really proficiently. And I know because I'm already doing that with some of my with one of my elves. And the thing is, but that doesn't completely stop a class, or not a race class, but a race from being able to use physical weapons. But when you look at all the races that typically use physical weapons, they have, like I said, either stamina regen, or weapon damage. But one exception that I was talking about making earlier was with the Britons, right? They don't have any stamina bonuses, but what they do have is, well, they have passives, magic passives that aren't wasted on a stamina character, and that's what I think sets them apart from the High Elves. Because with the High Elf, well, let's just look at the Britons first. They get regen, magic regen. They get reduced cost on magic skills, which is very, very useful. If you have a low magical pool, you put everything into stamina, right? All of the Breton passives come in handy. You get you get spell resistance, right? And you get magic regen and reduced cost to magic skills. All of that is useful on the and you get max magic too. So none of that is wasted on the stamina character. You could just build full stamina and just do really, really well, in my opinion, on the Breton. And that's why I have a Breton Templar tank. But with a High Elf, you have wasted stats. If you build just full stamina with a High Elf, you get spell damage, right? Which again didn't exist in the other Elder Scrolls games, but in Elder Scrolls Online you get spell damage, and that's a passive that is completely wasted on a stamina character, unless you're using maybe Magicka for a heal, and even then, if you don't have a large Magicka pool, you're just not really it's not gonna be that great for you. And so that's why if you're going to give the High Elf something, you have to give them something in order for them to be able to use weapons. proficiently, or at least decently. And again, out of all the options, weapon damage is the least lore-breaking thing in my opinion. So people just, I think, just have to get over the whole idea that high elves can't or shouldn't have any stamina bonuses at all, and actually think about what they're getting and think about how the game is made and think about the bigger picture. You know, like a lot of people say, well, Elder Scrolls isn't a canon game because it breaks lore so much. But this is one of those cases where I don't think it's breaking lore at all. I mean, because your character's ability to play multiple roles, stamina or magic, was important to Elder Scrolls, and Elder Scrolls Online is trying to keep it that way. So in a way, it's more faithful to Elder Scrolls in that way than people give it credit for. And I think part of the problem is that people look at weapon damage and spell damage. It's like they put it on a pedestal, like it's the end all be all of everything, and that's not. You know, and when you really consider all the other passives that a high elf has, it still isn't really enough to make a high elf a great stamina fighter. Even though, you know, historically in their stories, in the lore, they do have warriors, but it's not enough just weapon damage alone. But that's where the spell recharge comes in, and they get a little bit, like if your stamina is your lowest resource, then you get some stamina regen. But that, like I said, is probably the more of a lore breaking thing than giving the Altmer weapon damage. So I know I'm probably talking in circles right now. I just wanted to try to be absolutely clear, and I mean, I think that basically sums it up. But I just want Elder Scrolls to get more credit for actually trying to be like Elder Scrolls than it's getting. It's not getting enough credit in that way. And coming from somebody who admittedly isn't an old school Elder Scrolls player, I just started with Skyrim. You know, I understand that people probably don't value that opinion much, but I think it's based in not common, it's based in a realistic view of the game, in a view that's not myopic and focused too much on one stat as like that is the end all be all of every build damage, when it's not. So yep, that's the end of this video. Thanks for listening.